I need one more volunteer, somebody who's Muslim, preferably a man. I need someone who's Muslim just to sit down here. I have one person, I need a second person. Yo, you good? Wait, hang on, you were down here the other day though. Somebody else who hasn't been down in front. Someone who's Muslim. There's got to be somebody. Yo, man. Could be a woman. Doesn't matter. What's your name again? What's your name? Mala. Mala?
Yeah, Mala.
Mala. Somebody, who else? Who else wants to do it? Anybody? All right, dude, you're on, man. Okay, so you're just going to hang down here. You just want some Muslim energy down in the front, okay? All right, bro? We're just getting Muslim energy down in the front. Okay, so a number of years ago, back in 2010, I gave a talk, and in the talk I discussed what it would be like to be an average, ordinary Iraqi going through the wars and the invasions, starting back in the early 90s, and sanctions, and then the renewed war, and one thing after another, and all of the things that happened in Iraq. And I walked the audience through what that would probably be like as an average, ordinary Iraqi. And I had not spoken with many average, ordinary Iraqis, but I just really had a sense of what that would be. Parts of that talk was to have people put themselves in the shoes of insurgents who saw themselves as defending their country against invaders who were there for oil, because that's essentially what the most recent war was about under the Bush administration, was a quest for oil and control of natural resources. And that's just widely accepted at this point, and it was pretty widely accepted back then. And I asked people to put themselves in the shoes of this guy, these guys, people like this, who were attacking Americans, they would say defending their land, who were really unsettled by everything that they saw. And I had people, for example, imagine that some other country invaded the United States because they wanted our coal or our natural gas or something, right? It was pretty radical because, to ask Americans to step in the shoes of people they identify as terrorists who are attacking and killing other Americans is kind of a radical thing to do. But I didn't want people to support these guys. I just wanted them to understand how and why they might pick up guns and fight, right? And so in the process, I was contacted by people, really many people, a lot of people in the military. Surprisingly, many people in the military supported what I said, and they agree with me and so on, right? And then quite a number of people around who are Muslim around the world. And one guy from Iraq contacted me and he said, hey, you know what? He found my email online and he said, I am that average, ordinary Iraqi Muslim. Didn't really think much about politics. I'm an engineer. And I can say that Iraqis, average, ordinary people, largely feel exactly like what you said. This is it. This is where they came down. And so we started talking. And then over the years, he would Skype into my class, and I taught another class on war, and so we'd talk about war, and he'd Skype into this class, or VTC in, and we would talk about culture in the Middle East and life in Iraq and all sorts of things, right? We really had some very interesting conversations, and we became friends. And he's pretty active on Facebook, and so, just over the years, this was 2010 is when I did the talk, so over the ensuing years, we just connected a lot. So, so it turns out, he, lived in Mosul, which is up here. This is Baghdad. Here, this is Mosul up in the north, kind of, closer to the border with Syria. And so I learned about him. And he had studied in Michigan, and he was married. This is a picture. Ultimately, it was married to his wife. She's Iraqi, also from Mosul, Mayada. And this is a picture of them in Michigan. So, got different photos. I mean, you sort of learn. Here's Bassem at graduation with Mayada. And, just lots of, just a guy. Went back to Iraq, built a house, had a family, had 2 children. And that's his house, really nice house in Mosul, and built a house next to his brother. And his brother was married and had 2 children and 2 beautiful houses right next door to each other. And just, had a life, average, ordinary life. Family was in pharmacies, and so had a couple pharmacies in Mosul, and just, Here, this is his brother's house. So this is Bassem's son here. This is a cousin. Here's his brother. Here's his nephew. Bassem is taking the photo. Bassem takes tons of photos. He's always taking photos, right? So it's a nice house. Nice people. Average, ordinary people. Very nice people. So come 2015 in the fall, I was on Facebook. I was in St. Louis at the time for a wedding. One of my former students was getting married, and I saw this. And can you read that? Can you read that? Okay. So here's what it said, and I didn't know what it was, but I saw feeling sad. And it says, in the middle of the night, coalition planes targeted 2 houses occupied by innocent civilians. This part, now I didn't know this, right? But I knew there was something was happening with my friend Bassem. Now he's my friend, right? So I cut it out, I pasted it in Google Translate. It says, this barbarian attack cost me the lives of my wife, my daughter, my brother, and my nephew. May they rest in peace, and may Allah Almighty accept them as martyrs. Martyr is just the death, the killing of someone who is adherent to God, to Allah. And so I said, okay, this isn't possible. What? My friend? Like, how? What is this? Right? So I contacted him on Facebook, and we started talking right away. And yeah, it turns out, so he sent me this photo. That's his house. And it was true. It had just happened. That's his brother's house. And then in the process of texting back and forth, he sent this text to me. And, you can imagine just how stunned how stunned, right? Like just a sense of disbelief. Like how do you hold this? How do you hold something like this? And then he sent that. And ultimately, his brother, Bassem's nephew, Bassem's daughter, and Bassem's wife were killed by coalition forces in a war that Iraqis never wanted, in a war that the Western nations, led by the United States, started because we wanted Iraqi oil and we wanted to control the politics of the Middle East. A war that we imposed on another nation. So all the destruction, all of the killing, all of the bloodshed, in the end, comes down around and impacts in a direct way the family and my friend and his family. And so he's here today calling in from Mosul to have a conversation with us. And so we are going to continue this conversation. Bassem, can you hear me okay? Can you?
No, Sam.
Hey, Bassem, how are you? Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay, good. So, welcome once again to 100 Thomas.
Thank you so much.
Hey, so one of the, I think you heard my introduction. Bassem, by the way, was here last year at this time. So, and you will be coming back in the fall. So it will be lovely to have you again. But one of the things that's really on my mind right now that I think you can help us think through a little bit is a lot of anti-Muslim rhetoric that's coming up in the American press. We have some new congressional representatives who are Muslim women. I'm just seeing I'm seeing a rise of hate again. And I titled this class, An Ordinary Muslim, because you're an ordinary guy. And I'm wondering if you could just say a little bit about that. First off, about your own journey, what you've gone through and how you've gone through this experience and where you're at now. But then we'll talk a little bit more about others. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Sam, for having me in your class. After what happened to me, and for the first few months when I was in Turkey, I still was not aware of what had happened. And I was angry for the first few months. But then I decided to speak out because I thought that the best way to let people know what happened in Mosul, in Iraq, is through me. So because I spoke decent English, I started reaching out to journalists. I went to the American embassy. I filed a case with the American consulate in Baghdad, and I started talking. People keep asking me, how can you talk without the hatred? Muslims are known for not hating, but we have been stereotyped. So after what happened to me, I feel I am on a crusade as one individual to speak out, to talk to people. After I came to your class last year and then all through these years I've been talking, I've met so many student friends and I keep talking to them. So if I can convince few people that Muslims are not terrorists, Muslims are peace-loving religion, the hatred is coming back. You saw what happened in New Zealand in the mosque. It's so sad. I keep emphasizing that revenge is not the answer. Talking to people, especially to young generation. And this is my crusade now. Just talk, keep talking.
So, yeah, thank you. One of the questions that students often ask you, or that people ask you is, and I want to go back, you responded, but I would like you to say more. How is it possible that you don't hate? And can you just talk a little bit more about your journey, your way of seeing that? What has shifted in you?
Sam, I was asked this question by Iraqis and by Americans. How can you not hate? I cannot generalize the idea. I mean, there are some people who will have hatred in them, so they will go out and commit violent crimes against each other. You have the same problem. For me, I found this to be a peaceful solution to my pain, is not to hate, it's to forgive. And that's what I've been doing all over, and it kept me calm. It made me more talkative to people in a loving way. So this has, I am not the general person, but I am not the only one. There are many people who would like to talk, just talk.
Yeah, I think one thing that really strikes me is that that in a way I argue that you're actually ordinary, because most people want peace and justice. And if they experienced what you experienced, most people would want peace and they would want justice. They imagine that they actually would want revenge. But when it actually happens to them, people want peace and justice. They want to stop the violence. And I think that sometimes the people who have more power think that the people who have less power are going to rise up with vengeance. But in fact, that's not the case, and it's never the case throughout history.
Ooh.